All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Ventures Podcast. I'm continuing the series here on product and code, where each day, each week that I publish this podcast, and talk a little bit about product things, a little bit about code things. And I have a curriculum doc that those who are following along can learn product and code things on their own pace. So I'll go ahead and put that link into the show notes. So for today, I want to start by talking a little bit about why to think about building products on blockchains versus centralized services. So centralized services, Web 2 products are essentially Twitter, Facebook, and other apps that you use today that have centralized servers, and it's usually a C corporation, a public company, or private company that manages those servers to make sure that the data is as safe as possible. Obviously, those get hacked all the time, data leaks, all that fun stuff, and they can sell your data, they can deplatform you at any time, and all of that. So the reason to build on a blockchain like Ethereum is that it's a public ledger. You can verify certain things in terms of ownership of coins or tokens in a way that is essentially a public database. So instead of having a private database, you can have a public database and do really interesting things with smart contracts. So I'm just going to point, I own a few things from good old Yuga Labs here, and they have a fun little game going right now, and with some lore associated with. So if I own this NFT, I can claim a sewer pass and then play this game. I get access to play this game. So they can publicly verify that just based on my wallet address that I own this NFT, and I can go in and play this game, and there's prizes and different drops associated with it, et cetera, et cetera. And this is an example of how brands these days are using digital collectibles or different things you can do with either fungible tokens or non-fungible tokens to kind of add elements to your product that wouldn't have been otherwise available if you had a private database, right? You can be like an airline and have a private database of your airline miles, but transferability of those miles, ability to sell them on the open market, right? That's not a thing. But now that we have these public databases called blockchains, you can have a permissionless way to buy and sell these NFTs, and it creates interesting social dynamics. So if you're thinking from a product perspective, if you're able to add these elements using tokens, fungible tokens or non-fungible tokens, to the different mechanics that you're building with your community, because really products these days are all about your community, especially consumer products, then that will enable you to build for the modern web in a way that wasn't possible before. Okay, so now switching gears back over to code. Last week we walked through the application layout. And what I want to just show is right now in our little example app here with Ruby on Rails, we have a hello world. And all I'm going to do right now is just show you how to add a variable in this welcome controller. So a few episodes ago, we built a quick welcome controller with a layout or with an index file here in a welcome controller in the layouts folder. And again, if you're just listening to this podcast, there's a screencast of it, so just click in the show notes to get to see that video. And in this index template file, or in this view, we have a simple h1 tag with hello world, and we have an associated controller. So in Ruby on Rails, there's this concept called model view controller. We're going to talk about models later, but we have a controller here with a view, and essentially what the controller does is it sets up variables that we can send into our view so that when we render things, it can be done in a programmatic way. So what I'm going to do in this welcome controller is inside this index method, I'm just going to create a variable called name, and my name's Will, so I'm just going to put Will as this, and I'm going to basically instantiate this variable. And in Ruby, when you put this @ in front of a variable name, it's basically saying, hey, I'm going to send this across multiple files. And so then if I come back into the index and I delete this world and I do hello, comma, I can do what's called an embedded Ruby here, where I do this less than sign, the percent sign, and equal, which means I'm going to be rendering a thing. And I'm going to just inline put hello name. And then if I refresh my app here, there we go, hello, comma, Will. So that is a very simple concept of instantiating a variable in a controller and then sending that into an index file so that you can render it when you go to the appropriate page. You can see how it's going to build a lot from there. And again, I'm not going to try to recreate the wheel in this tutorial series. Instead, I'm going to refer you out to other tutorials and videos that's going to do most of the magic here. But I will sort of set up very basic concepts, especially those that are newer to writing code, because it really does not take long to get to this stage where you can start becoming a web developer and then see how you can build your own Twitters or Facebooks or TikToks or whatever. So, all right, have a great rest of your week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Well, I'll talk to you next week. All right, a couple quick things before you go. Number one, I have a general newsletter where I write about technology and startups and health science and teaching people to code. And I write about a variety of different subjects that we talk about on this show. So if you go to wclittle.com, there you'll be able to subscribe, and you'll also be able to subscribe to particular topics. If you're just interested in one or a few of them, you'll be notified right when I publish new content in those areas. Number two, my partners and I at Proto Ventures have a portfolio company called Startup Rocket. If you go to startuprocket.com, there you'll be able to receive coaching guides and customize an operations framework for you and your team and your advisors to be on the same page in terms of what is the appropriate next step for you in your entrepreneurial journey. And finally, if you wouldn't mind leaving a review anywhere that you have listened to this podcast or watched this podcast, it would be super helpful to help those who might be interested in consuming this content as well. Thank you.